In the 21st century, forget black gold. The most valuable resource on our planet isn't oil anymore. It's blue gold. We're talking about fresh water, and right now there's a silent, high-stakes war being waged for control of it. So let's dive in and see how this fight for our most essential resource is actually playing out.
Okay, so we all know Earth is the blue planet, right? It's covered in water. But what you probably don't realize is that of all that water, only a teeny tiny 3% of it is fresh water. Everything else, salt water. Just 3% for every person, every farm, every single factory on Earth.
Now hold on, because it gets even crazier. Of that tiny slice of fresh water, most of it is completely useless to us. It's locked away in glaciers and ice caps. The amount that's actually available for us to drink and use, it's less than 1%. 1.
And that, right there, brings us to the single most important question of our time. A question that is totally reshaping global politics, finance, and power as we speak. Who gets to control that precious 1%? The answer? Well, it's a lot more shocking than you'd think. So here's the game plan for this explainer. We're going to uncover this whole story, piece by piece. We'll start with why water is the new blue gold. Then we'll journey to the heart of South America's incredible water treasures. We'll find out how this vital resource somehow ended up on the stock market. And then we'll expose the silent war for control and a bizarre legal trap that's putting entire nations in check.
Let's kick things off with a massive paradox. Get this. South America has only about 12% of the world's population, but it holds nearly half, 47% of the world's renewable fresh water. Now, in a world that's getting thirstier by the day, you'd think this would make the continent safe. Nope, it makes it a target. To really understand what's at stake, you gotta meet the two main characters in this drama. We're talking about two of the most important freshwater systems on the entire planet. First, let's look at what's happening right under our feet.
Okay, so first up is the Guarani Aquifer. And I want you to just erase any image of a big underground lake from your mind. That's not what this is. A better way to picture it is as a gigantic water-soaked sponge made of rock, deep beneath the earth. And the scale is just mind-boggling. It's big enough to supply 360 million people with water forever.
Now here's where things get complicated. This underground ocean doesn't give a hoot about borders drawn on a map. As you can see here, it's shared by 4 different countries. Brazil's got the lion's share, but Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay are all sitting on top of it too. And that creates a massive headache. Who gets to make the rules?
And then you have the Amazon. We all think of the river, right? The blue water. But its real superpower is completely invisible. The rainforest basically acts like a giant heart, a biobotic pump. It pulls moisture up from the ground and literally breathes it into the sky. This creates what scientists call flying rivers, huge streams of water vapor that deliver rain to farms all across the continent.
This brings us to a really crucial idea called virtual water. See, when a country exports food, it's also exporting all the water that was used to grow it. Think about it. Water-scarce nations are basically importing South America's water in the form of soybeans, beef, and, avocados. It's this huge, invisible transfer of a country's most vital resource.
So what's all this worth? Well, economists tried to put a price tag on what the world's freshwater ecosystems do for us for free, like regulating rainfall and purifying water. The number they came up with is $58 trillion annually. That's like 60% of the entire global GDP, and you better believe Wall Street wants in on that.
Okay, this is where our story takes a truly surreal turn. We've gone from thinking of water as a fundamental right, a shared resource, to something you can buy and sell like a share of Apple stock. But how on earth do you trade something like an underground ocean on the stock market? Well, this didn't happen overnight. Back in the 90s, we had privatization. Private companies started running public water systems. But on December 7th, 2020, the game completely changed. Water started trading on the Wall Street futures market. This wasn't just privatization anymore. This was the dawn of financialization, where water isn't just a product, it's a financial asset to bet on.
So what in the world is financialization? Put simply, it's when the real power shifts away from the people who actually manage the water to big financial players like hedge funds and investment banks. Water gets disconnected from its physical reality. The goal isn't just to sell water anymore. It's to make a profit by betting on its future price, which is really just a bet on future scarcity.
And yeah,
The ethical conflict here is massive. As experts from the UN have pointed out, when you treat water like just another commodity, you're directly challenging the basic human right to have it. It puts profit way ahead of people's most fundamental need.
So, if there's a war for water, where's the battlefield? It's not where you might think. This is a quiet, hybrid war, and it's being fought in corporate boardrooms, on stock exchanges, and across huge stretches of farmland.
One of the main weapons in this silent war is something called land grabbing. You have these foreign investors, and get this, even big university endowment funds like Harvard's, buying up hundreds of thousands of acres. But they're not just buying dirt, they're buying what's under it. They're buying exclusive access to those aquifers, especially the Guarani. It's a backdoor to controlling the water.
And running in the background of all this is a massive geopolitical chess match between the US and China. Both superpowers see South America's resources as absolutely vital, but they're using completely different playbooks to get access. The US is focused on security and military presence, while China is just wielding its incredible economic power.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. You can see it playing out on the ground. The U.S. funds these so-called humanitarian aid centers in really strategic spots, which many critics say are basically just military bases in disguise. Meanwhile, China is pouring billions into controlling infrastructure, like the massive Paraguay waterway, to make sure all that virtual water flows smoothly back home.
Now you'd think the countries of South America would be fighting back against all this, right? And they tried. They actually created what was supposed to be a legal shield to protect their most valuable resource. The only problem? That shield has a hidden flaw, a flaw that could bring the whole thing crashing down.
So this is the shield, the Guarani Aquifer Agreement, signed back in 2010. And on paper, it looks perfect. The 4 countries that share the aquifer got together and declared, in no uncertain terms, that the water under their land is theirs, period. It's a declaration of absolute sovereignty.
But then you get to Article 2. It's the fine print. And it is a fatal flaw. It basically says the whole agreement is subject to the norms of international law. And what does that mean? Well, it includes a whole web of investment treaties signed back in the 90s that are designed to do one thing: protect corporate profits no matter what.
And this fine print creates an absolutely paralyzing trap. Here's how it works. Say a country does the right thing and passes a law to conserve water. A foreign corporation can then sue them, not because they lost money, but because the new law might hurt their expected profits down the road. The case isn't even heard in a real court, but in a private tribunal that can then force that country to pay the corporation billions. It basically makes it impossible for a nation to protect its own resources.
Which leaves us with one last chilling question. As we turn water from the source of all life into just another abstract asset on a screen, traded by speculators thousands of miles away, who is actually in control? When it all comes down to it, who really gets to decide who gets a drink and who goes thirsty?